Okay, so since I still get this big table set up from when I did the Talon Fighter the other day, I figure I might as well get some of this larger stuff out of the way. And I've had this thing sitting around here for like a few months now, and it's just one of those things where it's like, this is such a big item. I didn't want to do it with my normal setup since, I want to actually be able to fit it on the camera. And I bought this a while back, and you can see that when I got it, and these are still hanging around Walmart's for this price. Where did the tag go? It was on the other side. Yeah, $15, not too bad. Uh, I believe the original retail price for that was 30. And so this is the Hawk ship, which was a toy that I was pretty excited about because you just don't see a lot of big vehicles like that anymore. And I've got to assume that, like, just looking it over, it's going to be a fairly simple toy, but a nice big ship. That was something I thought was pretty cool. And, I grew up reading comic books, of course, and Hawkman was a character I always thought was really cool. And when I would have first read any Hawkman comics, it would have been World's Finest. There was a little while where Hawkman was a backup comic strip in World's Finest. Back when World's Finest was a dollar comic, and I don't know if you guys remember dollar comics at all. If you're about my age, you probably do. But DC at that time experimented with putting out comic books for the astronomical sum of $1, and it was at that time that was a lot to pay for a comic book. But it was a big fat comic book with a lot of features in it, and of course at that time, World's Finest would have been mainly a Superman Batman team up comic. So every issue had a story with Superman teaming up with Batman, and they put other characters into backup stories in that. So you had Green Arrow and Black Canary usually in the same story together. You had Black Lightning. You had, I think, the Creeper was one for a while. I think Red Tornado had a few. I think Aquaman had a few, and Shazam became a backup strip in there for a while. That was when Don Newton was drawing Shazam, and that was some good artwork. Don Newton, man, that guy, we lost him too soon. And Hawkman. So I remember, Hawkman having this ship in the comics, and because in the comics, Hawkman was an alien at the Silver Age Hawkman, and never thought I would get a toy of it. I mean, if they didn't get around to it in Superpowers, but I guess having a movie coming out with the character and the ship in it, that gave them an excuse to make it. And, I liked the Black Adam movie. I gave it a positive review. I thought it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm pretty sad that we probably won't get a sequel to it. That's unfortunate. So we'll get a sequel to the Batman, though. So you'll get to see him clomping around and fouling up mysteries. So yeah, got it open here. There's a picture of Black Adam on the side. Apparently, somebody decided to stab him in the crotch. Poor guy. This side's kind of blank. Not a whole lot special here. But yeah, it's got pictures of The Rock as Black Adam from the movie. On the back, we got a nice picture of the toy and the figures. It says Black Adam at the top. They didn't put a whole lot of imagination into most of the sides of these boxes. Really, the one they had the most that they tried to make the most interesting was the one where they put the picture of the main character of the movie. But I kind of feel like they probably should have put Hawkman himself onto one of those panels since it's his ship. Yeah, it's Black Adam's movie, but it's Hawkman's ship. So we pulled the tray out, and there's the little smaller tray with the figures in it. And I do believe that these are the same figures that you would get on the card. And There's the wings for the ship, and the body of the ship itself is rubber banded in there. Feels very light. Like I said, this is probably going to be a fairly basic toy, but sometimes basic is all you need, man. You don't really need anything all that fancy. And I did have over here, no, I can't see where I put it. Over here, I did have the single carded Hawkman figure, because I got that for a pretty good price. They had the single carded figures on sale at Walmart $4 here recently, so I was able to get a Hawkman, and I did want to compare the two figures and see that they were indeed the same figure. I didn't mind having two Hawkmans, especially at that price, because I figured one of them I could customize. Oh, here it is. I'll put it over on this table. So yeah, there's the single carded one. So one thing that, for the most part, I thought that was a pretty good design of Hawkman. But one thing that I did think was strange was that he had red pants, whereas I tend to think of Hawkman as having green pants. Now, granted, the Golden and Silver Age versions of Hawkman, he had green pants with red trunks over them. But usually, like, even if they get rid of the trunks, they have them with green pants rather than red. So I kind of figured one of these I could repaint him so that he had green pants and see what it looked like. So that would be fun. I figured maybe I'd leave him with the red trunks, just paint the legs green. See what that would look like. But anyway, let me go ahead and cut these. Got two rubber bands there holding the body of the ship in. Now, the ship in the movie was a lot bigger than this one proportionally. And you can tell if you look at the front where the windows are. And like I said, they went really basic with this. So the windows are just kind of painted in white. But these would be like where the characters would be sitting, like right here. And you can see that Hawkman is much larger than you would need to be to fit in there. So he's he's not gonna fit in the way you would ideally want those characters to fit in there. And in fact, you're not going to be able to fit more than one person into this cockpit. And do they even show that on the box? There is a little picture here, yeah, where you can see I can get there where the light can actually hit it, where it's opened up, and you can see Black Adam is flying the ship. I guess because like it's his name on the marquee, but it's Hawkman's ship. So people say The Rock got an ego, and of course he's gonna have an ego. He's The Rock. Have you not watched his old wrestling? But maybe he went in there. No, you're gonna have me flying this thing on the toy box. But it's a Hawkman ship. Yeah, well, I'm The Rock. What are you gonna do about it? All right, so we got the little tabs cut. They're holding the Rock into the package, and the cape was all tucked in up there. And he does have a cape. This is when I reviewed the 12-inch figure. I'd said that I kind of wished that the cape looked a little bit more like in the movie. What I didn't know at the time, because I hadn't yet seen the movie, was that he actually does have a cape more similar to this at the very end. So it actually is more accurate to the movie than I thought, but just to the very end of it. So there is The Rock, and it looks very much like the 12-inch figure, but just smaller. Hang on just a second. I'm going to go over to where I had all my Spin Master figures, and I'm going to grab Captain Marvel real quick. Some people call him Shazam, but I say damn the lawyers. I'm always going to call this guy Captain Marvel. So we can compare the two, and the Black Adam movie figures I think are a little bit smaller in proportions than the standard Spin Master superheroes. So Captain Marvel is a bit more muscular and a bit taller than Black Adam, which is unfortunate. I would prefer for if anything, Black Adam to be larger even than Captain Marvel, so it makes him look a little more imposing since he is the villain. But that's what they look like next to each other. I figure we might as well have these two arch enemies and see what they look like next to each other. I think that they did do a figure of Zachary Levi as he looked in the Shazam movie, but they didn't have it. It didn't have its own line, which that movie bombed. So I guess maybe they were wise to not fool with that. But Black Adam wound up not doing so hot at the theaters either, unfortunately. So we got some accessories here that I pulled out of the bag that the wings were in. So you got some lightning bolts for Black Adam. And for Hawkman, we have an axe, double-bladed axe. And we have a mace. Because if you got a Hawkman figure, you got to have a mace. That's one of the things that disappointed me about the 12-inch figure that I opened was that he didn't come with a mace. So I'm going to have to make one with my 3D printer. I still haven't gotten around to it yet, but eventually I will. I did really like that 12-inch Hawkman figure, though. I just wish he had to come with the mace. And again, with the 3 3/4-inch one, he looks very similar to that 12-inch figure, just smaller. So there's a Hawkman himself. And we can get the wings out of here. It was a very strange choice to me in the movie that Hawkman would be the character that you would pick to be like, heroes don't kill people, Black Adam. And because Hawkman kills people all the time. It was like, maybe they should have used somebody else for that part. I don't know. But I wasn't going to complain too much because I like Hawkman, and it was pretty cool seeing him in here. So there are these kind of rectangular pegs on the wings and these rectangular holes on his back. So you just plug the wings right into his back. Which unfortunately means that these wings aren't articulated at all. But they are pretty big and impressive wings. And in fact, I think they might be a little too big because it looks like they're going to reach down a little bit past his feet. No, it works just fine. I was almost afraid it might be too long, but it's just long enough. So let's go ahead and open up the single carded version, and that way we can compare the single carded version to the one that was in the package with the plane, which I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is just going to be the same exact figure again. Spin Master seems to like to do that, where they pack the same figure with vehicles and play sets and stuff. Kind of like how Mego was with the old comic action heroes, where if you bought a play set or a vehicle from those would often, like Batman would have come with the Batmobile set also, but you could buy the Batman figure by itself, I guess, if, kids couldn't afford to buy the Batmobile set. That seems like something that would be more of a Christmas present. But, if you just had to have that Batman figure right away, well, here's a single carded version of it, so you can get it. Same with a Spin Master. I think that's why they do that, so that, if a kid really wants a Hawkman figure, he doesn't have to buy, like, a $30 Hawkman jet to get Hawkman. So, put that back in there. If a kid wanted a Robert Pattinson Batman action figure, he doesn't have to buy a $30 Dodge Charger. Although I can't think of a single kid that would want a Robert Pattinson Batman action figure. All the kids that I know were like really bored by that movie. All right, so we got Hawkman put together from the single card, and yep, those are the same exact figure. So if you bought the Hawk Jet or are planning on buying the Hawk Jet and you haven't yet bought that single carded Hawkman figure, you don't have to bother. because it's the same exact one. Unless you're somebody like me that's going to repaint it so that it looks like he's wearing green pants instead of red. So there's some good detail to this figure. I think a lot of it is lost in the smaller version of the figure versus the larger version of the figure, of course, because, you know, you just don't have as much to work with at this size. But it is pretty much the same sculpt, I think. So both the jet version and the single carded version come with 2 accessories, and one is this axe, which reminds me a lot of He-Man's axe. I happen to have He-Man still over here, so we can look at the axe. Because I still have some of these figures from when I was doing the Talon Fighter, and you can see like it's not like it's not symmetrical like He-Man's axe is, but you can see what I'm talking about. It looks very similar to He-Man's axe, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and Hawkman also has this bladed weapon on his hand, which reminds me a lot of the Filmation superheroes cartoons from the 60s, and how Hawkman had that kind of glove with the talons on it. So I guess they were probably a fan of that. And of course, Hawkman's definitive weapon is the mace. So there he is with the axe and the mace, and he's ready to kick some ass. All right, so we'll sit him down there. And, you know, same accessories came with the single carded version as came with the jet version. So we have another mace and another axe, but I'm not going to bother to put those in his hands because we're about to put him in the ship. So we got the wings for the ship, and I believe those go with the fins up and the wings pointing down. Looking at the box art, yes, indeed they do. And those lock in fairly simple like that. So this is pretty simple assembly. You know, a kid could probably do this by themselves. And there we go. There's the Hawk ship. And like I said, this is much smaller in proportion to the figures than it was in the movie, where this was, a ship with a cabin in the front. I'd say that, like, in the movie, the size of this was probably more comparable to, like, the Millennium Falcon or something like that. But in this one, we just got, like, a single cockpit here to put the characters in. So one character can sit in here and fly it. Now, they did do something neat where the back opens up, and you can have the characters, like, standing around doing stuff in the back. Now, this is all very, very basic. Like, it's a little play area, but there's not a whole lot to play around with. But you can have the characters back here, and, maybe they're making plans and, discussing things, and, Hawkman's telling Black Adam that heroes don't kill people, and Black Adam's like, well, I'm not a hero. And you can do stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot of bells and whistles and features to this. Now, what I would have done that I think would have improved it greatly is a couple of things. And one, I would have put some figure pegs in here so that you could actually have the characters like standing, they could actually stand in there with some figure pegs. So like a play set usually has. Another thing, you can see there's like a lot of panels and stuff like that. It wouldn't have cost them too much to print up a sticker sheet so that the kids could put monitor panels and keyboards and various devices. Remember what I was talking about if you watched my Talon Fighter episode about how Mattel was able to, and this is to me an old school toy thing. So of course I think about a lot of vehicles that did this when I was a kid. A lot of your control panels and stuff were stickers. And with the Talon Fighter, they had stickers with things like fire extinguishers and tools and things like that. So things that could really get a kid's imagination going. And I think something Spin Master could have done that would not have been too expensive and would have added a lot of play value to the toy would be, I don't know, I'm closing that already because I'm still talking about it. is to make a sticker sheet where you could put some stickers in here, and maybe they could have, like with the Talon Fighter, some tools, fire extinguishers, monitors, control panels, buttons, switches, all kinds of things that you could have your characters in here fiddling around with. Maybe Black Adam is or Hawkman is monitoring the situation down on Earth while he's floating above in his Hawk ship. Maybe there's some damage to the ship and it's in flames, so he has to grab the fire extinguisher and put it out real quick. Things that a kid can use his imagination about. I do like how these wings do help the figure stand up, so that would be something a kid would appreciate, I'm sure. But like I said, this is a fairly simple toy. It doesn't have any kinds of uh, gadgets or anything like that. It's just a little area you can have the characters play around in. But I do feel like, yeah, they could have, even without raising the price point of the toy too much, the sticker sheet would have added a lot to it. So, and then like I said, there's not really any kind of, even though there's a canopy here that opens up, which is not how this works in the movie. Like I said, characters would be standing around in this cockpit, and they'd be sitting like in this little area right here. But of course, I guess they didn't want to make this thing too big, so we can sit one figure in the cockpit. And even though on the box it shows Black Adam is flying the plane, it doesn't really make any sense. I don't think he would even know how to fly a plane. I'm going to put Hawkman into it. And I'd mentioned when I did the review of Dr. Fate, because he's a character that's at this scale. I didn't really like the way that they did the leg articulation on these. I don't know why they decided to do it in such a weird way. Like at least with the Flash, like those figures, like the articulation, it still goes up and down like that. It's closer to how in fact, yeah, this is pretty much how the Spin Master figures usually are, with a little ball joint there. But these don't really have a ball joint. They just have kind of a hinge joint, and you have to kind of like turn it around to get him to sit down. And even then, when I do that, I kind of feel like his legs are kind of a little splayed open, so I might not have the easiest time fitting him into this cockpit. Maybe if I bend his knees a little bit, maybe that'll help. And there's not a whole lot of room for the character to actually sit up straight in the cockpit. He's kind of lying down in it still. And maybe the reason they had Black Adam flying the plane on the box rather than the Rock's ego is because Hawkman's got those big old wings on his head, and those do kind of poke into the top as I'm trying to get him to sit. He's not going to sit very well. So they've got like this this kind of console. The legs are supposed to wrap around, I guess. I don't know if it works that well, but that's about the best I can get him to fit into the cockpit. And of course, you have to take his wings off to do that, because the wings are not going to fit in the cockpit. Which might be another reason they decided to display that with Black Adam sitting in the cockpit rather than Hawkman himself, even though this is a Hawk cruiser. But it's a nice looking ship. I think they did a good job with the design of this. It does remind me a lot of how the ship is drawn in the comic book. Now, as I remember it, I could be mistaken, I think the one in the comic book was actually yellow. That's as I remember it. I haven't read those in a long time. And I figure a ship like that was rendered to be yellow in the comics was probably actually supposed to be gold. But instead, the Hawk ship in the toy is this kind of gunmetal color with some gold accents to it, which is probably more realistic. I guess some people would say. Maybe I don't know if it'd be more realistic, but it's certainly a more grounded sort of color, So overall, I think they did a pretty nice job with this toy. I don't know if it really needed to be $30 like it originally was, because, like I said, it's a pretty simple toy. There's not a whole lot to it. I don't know. I didn't really complain about the price on the the Flash '89 Batmobile, and that's kind of a similar thing where you know, it's just a simple toy in this cheap sort of plastic, and it doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles to it. But I think I was just really more excited about a Batmobile because I do love this '89 Batmobile. It's like just one of my favorite things in the world. And the Hawk ship I think is really cool, and I'm glad to have it. And it's certainly something that I never thought that I would have in toy form. But I just kind of think that like maybe the Hawk ship should have had a little more to it, just a little more. I don't think necessarily that the $30 price point that they had for this thing was a bad deal, but I don't regret waiting on it until I could get it for half price. I'll say that much. I think that $15 is a much better price for it. Now, that having been said, and of course it's too late to do anything about it now, but if anybody from Spin Master was to watch my video, I think that it could have been greatly improved just by adding, like I said, some stickers to the inside of the doors when it opens up here, and that would have given a little more fuel for a child's imagination as they were playing with this. And I think it would have added a lot of value to this toy without necessarily adding a lot to the manufacturing costs, if you know what I mean. So overall, not a bad toy. And if you skipped out on it for $30, you were probably wise to do that and instead wait until you could get it for a $15 price point, which is much better. So you can probably still find these hanging around your Walmarts. I know I still see them hanging around Walmarts occasionally. But this one I bought a while back and just never got around to opening it. Mainly, like I said, because I needed to have a table set up for it. I was just too lazy to do that. It doesn't have any landing gear to it whatsoever. Like nothing even vaguely resembling landing gear, except maybe the fins that are in the back. So I think that's another thing that maybe they could have added like a landing gear that flipped out from the front somehow, and then the ship could have set more level. But as it is, you're just going to sit it on the ground like that. So, and Hawkman's like even shorter than Michael Keaton Batman. They did not put a lot of effort into making these Black Adam figures very tall. So I think that just all these Black Adam figures in general could have been slightly larger than what they are. Like I thought Hawkman, or I thought when I got Dr. Fate, I thought he was a little on the small side, but Black Adam and Hawkman are both supposed to be bigger guys. Like I could more forgive that with Dr. Fate, since he doesn't necessarily need to be like a large dude. And in fact, like I was more forgiving of that with Michael Keaton because that dude's only like 5'7". He ain't the tallest guy in the world. So he's like slightly less than average height. Like that was why Burton felt like, this is a guy that you believe would have to have a bat suit to be imposing. So yeah, overall, I think the Black Adam figure line was pretty good, but it could have been better. And the main improvements I can think of they could have made to the figures is to make them slightly taller than what they actually were, and not have that weird leg articulation that they went with on those. So I don't know. I think I threw the Robert Pattinson Batman figure across the room again, so I don't have him over here. But I think he had like the standard Spin Master leg articulation, as I recall. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for the Hawk ship. I wouldn't pay $30 for it, but if you see it clearanced out like I did, then $15 is not a bad price to pay. And it'll look pretty cool on my shelf with other DC vehicles. So that's a good thing. And I guess that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe, and hit that little bell if you want to be there when I go live. And I always like interacting with people in the chat if anybody ever shows up to interact with the chat. So feel free to do that. I don't actually make these as live streams for that purpose. I mainly just do that for my own convenience. So it's not really intended to be the sort of thing where there's like a whole lot of stuff going on in the chat. But I never mind interacting with the chat. In fact, I enjoy it. So feel free to do that if you do so choose. You know what? I forgot while I got these up. Let's see what he looks like while he's holding onto the lightning bolts. Might as well go ahead and do that. So he's got little pegs that he can hold on to, so he can hold the lightning bolt in his hand. And I guess since we got Captain Marvel here, we can go ahead and give him a lightning bolt too, so they can have like a lightning bolt battle. Bzz, bzz. Okay, so but yeah, that's pretty much it. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these toys, this movie, these characters in the comic book. What do you think about any of that? I'm always ready to hear your opinions, even if you're trolling me and saying that you actually liked the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. So I can imagine somebody who says that was trolling, because who would like that movie? It's so boring, and the main character is such a ditz. Man, what a dumpster fire of a Batman that was. He is just pathetic. So even George Clooney was a better Batman than Robert Pattinson. That's just sad. Yeah, Robert Pattinson was such a bad Batman that they had to bring back George Clooney at the end of The Flash. That's how bad he was. Anyway, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.